what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Nursing Uncharted, the podcast that delves into different nursing specialties and provides the space for uncharted conversations within your nursing practice. I'm Maggie Reichard, pronouns she, her. I'm a full-time medical ICU nurse, and I'm your host for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. So glad you found us wherever you are watching and or listening. This episode is sponsored by AMN Passport. AMN Passport is a highly rated app that AMN has created to help nurses find, book, and manage travel nurse assignments all in one place. You get instant notifications when you match with a contract, so if you are looking for your next travel assignment, it's worth checking out. So guys, I just got back from NurseCon at sea, and I wanted to tell you all about it in this episode. This is a NurseCon at sea recap episode. So if you're interested in going next year or just want to know if it's worth it, if it's actually fun, did we actually learn anything or take anything away, things that you can bring back to your nursing practice, this is the episode for you. And joining me is my good friend who came on the ship this year. You may remember her from the Med Surg travel episode last year. Good friend of mine, Shannon Yarnoff. Hey, Shan.
Hi. It's good to be back.
I know. I think you're one of the only people that we've had a couple dual episodes like back to back where we have people, but I've never had a guest return. So I think that you're the first one that's returned.
Oh, wow. I feel very special. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Hopefully.
Yes. Wow. And I got to go on the cruise itself. Like I'm just winning on all aspects.
I'm really glad that you came with me. I feel like you were a great hype man and point person to go to.
Thank you.
To go with.
I think it was a really great experience. So, I really appreciate you letting me come on the cruise with you. And it was nice just to get to hang out us two too, chat.
I know.
It's been a while.
I know. We don't get to, babies change a lot of things.
The baby, but she's just so sweet. So it's fine. Yes. I can share you with her.
Yes. Yeah, Shan came with me because Matt was absolutely not. So I have to start off with this. I don't think I've actually said the story about my, NurseCon experience last year. Oh, yeah. This isn't the first time that I've been on NurseCon. I went on kind of. I know. Everybody that asked me this past week, oh, did you go on last year? I had to say kind of, because it's an interesting story. So I went on, I bought NurseCon tickets in 2019. I was so excited to go. Love Nurse Blake. And then obviously that didn't happen. COVID happened. And so, fast forward 2022. So 3 years in the making. I was waiting for this conference and it finally happened in 2022. And I booked a stateroom forever ago. And I was I'll just grab a couple other nurses, in the next few years, whenever it will happen. And I forgot and didn't end up doing that. So I ended up just taking my husband, Matt. I was we'll make it a little, honeymoon situation. And he was coming from a real estate conference in Vegas. He was meeting me in Miami where we were setting sail. And you had to test for COVID 48 hours or 24 hours, some short timeline beforehand. You didn't have to do that this year, but you did test. So you tested in Vegas. He was negative. And then I think he went to some club scene with everybody as the last night at the real estate conference, got COVID, and then started showing symptoms the very next day while we were on the ship. So Matt had COVID on the ship, and I didn't. I had COVID beginning of April, so I didn't get it this time. But essentially, we went down to the medical area and they quarantined him for the entire week. They separated us. And and I couldn't go. I didn't have COVID, but I was in close contact. So I couldn't go on to the conference. I couldn't get off the ship. I couldn't eat at, Windjammer or any of the nice restaurants or sushi places, any of that. I could walk around the ship, but I couldn't. I had to order, room service every day. And it really sucked. There's just, and obviously they have to do that. I'm not saying that it was just a unfortunate situation, but they locked it down like they were like, there's no way that they're going to get close to anybody else on the ship, which is a good thing. It was probably one of the safest places that you can get, COVID for everybody else, I guess, because everybody's vaccinated. Everybody was, COVID negative beforehand. And they really like bunkered us down. So I don't fault them for that. But also, I mean, it was a bummer for me, but like it actually had a really detrimental impact for Matt for a week because he was in a stateroom. He couldn't leave his stateroom. He had a window, but no access to outside fresh air. And he just was like pacing in a small room for 4 days. And he was like mentally still on the ship, like for days afterwards. It was, he wasn't my Matt, and it was really scary. And so essentially, and he's fine now, but like he was like, I'm not going on the cruise again for sure. But like at the end of the week, I had emailed support at NurseCon, and I just sent them an email saying like, I'm so glad that this finally happened, and this was such like a long time in the making. And obviously, as I could I couldn't go to anything, but I could walk around the ship and see how much fun everybody was having. And, the first day was really great for like, networking and meeting people before we knew Matt had COVID. But it was like such a necessary, it was so therapeutic for everybody, it seemed like. And so I just kind of like thanked them for that. And I was like, this was such a needed space for nurses after COVID and after the 3 years, and to get back together in a place like this. Unfortunately, this experience ended for my husband and I the first night, and I told them about what happened. And I got a call from Blake and Blake's team, and they were like, we just want to know how you are doing and how Matt is doing. And it was like such an amazing, I never expected to get Blake, like when I was emailing back and forth, like, but we talked for like 30 minutes. And I mean, he was just so sweet. He was like, what do you want to do? Do you want all of your money back? Do you want to go on the ship next year in a balcony room? I'll put you up with my friends and family. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. Yeah. Like, that's definitely like, okay. And I was pregnant at the time. I mean, I had like, so Matt and I knew that we were going to have a 5-month-old, and we were like, can we make it work? And Matt was like, I want you to go. I've been waiting for this cruise for like 3 years, and he felt so bad that he got COVID on his real estate conference and ruined it. He was like, I want you to go. We will figure it out. So we came on the ship this year, and I brought Shan, and it really was a great, amazing do-over. I mean, it was a do-over, and we got a balcony room, and it was just so sweet. And I had the opportunity to thank Blake this time around too. I was like, you didn't have to do that. That was just above and beyond. And I'm just so happy that I'm here. And so he's such it's amazing to be surrounded and as famous as he is, and still be such a, welcoming, such a great human. Yeah. It's really like how personable he and John and Nurse John, mm-hmm. like how personable they both are. Like, it's got to be a superpower to like have to still be like, they still work too. Like, I think John still works full time as a Med Surg nurse. It sounds like
represent Med Surg,
I know.
When I met him on the boat, I told him about that. I said, because I saw him, you were in the room, and I just happened to walk by him, and I was like, you're Nurse John, right? I mean, I already knew, but I'm going to ask that anyway, just be like, how do you start a conversation with somebody that you already know who they are? So that's how you do it. Oh, you're Nurse John, right? And then, so we started talking about Med Surg nursing. And so we're like, represent. Like, I was just so excited to talk to him, because all of his TikToks and everything I've seen are just amazing, and they just show the Med Surg tired Med Surg nurse. Just, it's amazing.
Yes, The ones that he's doing right now with like the pump up songs in the car before work for like different specialties. Oh my, I saw one last night. It was so funny. It was like ER nurses. He was singing Highway to Hell. And there it was like oncology nurses. He was singing Toxic. It was just like really, he's just so funny.
Yeah, him and Blake, they really, quite the dynamic duo. And they did that, yes. The Nurse Becky live.
Yeah, they both went on there with like their aliases.
Yes.
They're like the alternative personalities. They went on there and they like were doing like a Q&A like with each other. It was hilarious.
It really was perfect. And it was really cool to see both of them because I'd only seen them separate. You know, they each do their own kind of thing on TikTok, but they also on the boat, they were separate most of the time that I saw initially. Yeah. I did see them together a little bit more as the cruise had gone on, but it was really cool to see them together and like interact together in like a very, I don't know, natural.
Yeah, they're definitely friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're definitely friends. They
you
collab.
Can tell.
I've seen them collab a little bit before, but yeah, you can definitely tell. Well, I want to give people kind of an idea of what NurseCon was like. You know, it's a dual experience because you're on vacation, but it's also a conference. You know, you're on a nurse cruise with, 3,000 nurses having a good time. But there's also like opportunities for CNEs and, educational like sessions. And so I wanted to kind of divide this episode into two parts and talk about the conference and talk about the nurse experience.
Great.
So the conference, the conference was 2 days. It was, like the day at sea. So we went to the Bahamas and the first day we were in Coco Cay, and that's like Royal Caribbean's island. And then we had a day at sea, and then we had a day in Nassau. So like 3 full days, I guess I would say. And so the day at sea was like you had the opportunity. You don't have to go, but like you had the opportunity to go to all of these different things. And we had a full day, like 8 to 5.
Yep.
Which I wouldn't really recommend. I feel like we didn't have any time to I was tired after that day.
Yeah, I didn't have any sun. I'm literally in the middle of the ocean right now, and I haven't seen the light of day at all. I was like, I've just been in the cruise ship the entire time. I did see through the window. Well, we had our room, which obviously was amazing and thankful for that. And then Windjammer, of course, has that's the buffet area. So it had, those windows basically almost floor to ceiling pretty much. And that's the only daylight that I saw almost that whole day. I was like, I have to go outside.
I gotta go to the pool. I'm out. I gotta go to the pool.
Yeah.
And I had to pump every now and then. So Shannon would go out and meet people, go to the hot tub, go to the pool, and I would pump. Yeah. And you met, it was so funny. We ran into Nurse Maddie, who's another Instagram influencer. And she has a podcast, Life in Scrubs. And I met her last year on NurseCon, that first few hours that I was on the ship. And Shan, you could probably tell how you met her.
Yeah, went into the hot tub and I was just sitting down. She was already talking to somebody else, and then I was kind of talking to somebody else, and then they were saying goodbye. And then it was kind of funny because she's like, "Oh, I'm Maddie," and her boyfriend, I guess at the time, I think now they're engaged as of the cruise, which is very exciting. At least what I've seen on her Instagram. Yeah. So I was like, I guess the people who she was talking to thought that she said she was Maddie, and then her man was also Maddie or Matt. And I was like, oh, wow. They were like, oh, wow, that'd be funny. And I turned to them and I was like, that would definitely be easy, but an interesting situation, with Matt and Maddie. And she's like, no, his name's really Ryan. I was like, oh, great. And then we just started talking that way. I had no idea that she had a podcast. And so it was really cool to just talk to her organically. And then I remember when I came and told you, I was like, oh, I met 2 people in the pool. And then later,
I was how was the hot tub? She was like, oh, I met a couple.
Yeah.
I was like, cool.
You're like, wait a minute. Oh my goodness. Yeah. She has a podcast, and that's really cool. And we saw her later at the Silent Disco.
Yeah.
And that was really fun.
Right. We went to Silent Disco and I saw her and I was about to say hello. And then Shan was like, oh Maddie. And I was like, what? Yeah. She was like, oh, this is the couple I met the other night. I was like, Maddie was like, Maggie? Yeah, it was great. It was so funny, like, of all people.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, the cruise ship had so many people on it, but for some reason it also felt like small, you know, like you could walk down a hallway and recognize somebody, which I really liked. And I mean, everybody on the trip was so friendly. I mean, we're all nurses, like we know how to talk to people. So it was really like, I was never in an area where I felt uncomfortable talking to somebody. Like I thought everybody was relatively inviting, and I just felt it felt like a great experience, honestly. Like I wish I would have thought about this. I should have just made this up. Like, hello. I mean, it's so obvious. Like nurses love to have
millions.
Like we love to have a great time. Like, you know, you've got your learning aspect of it. You've got your fun aspect. A lot of people just did the fun aspect. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But
it seemed like everybody was open and accessible and wanted to like talk to other nurses, and like that was definitely part of the experience to hang out with everybody and like feel as like a one unit.
Right. It's like we all have this shared understanding. And honestly, like, I mean, a lot of us work 3 days a week. A lot of us work 5 days a week, but like we all have a shared experience and like a shared understanding about what our work life looks like. And clearly we're on the cruise, so we have some similarities in our out of work life. So it was really cool to be able to like already have a lot in common with most of the people that were there on that trip. So that was a nice, like, you know, you already felt almost immediately comfortable being able to bring up anything with these people.
Yeah. And they facilitated those conversations too in the very first day with those meetups.
Oh, what a great idea.
I mean, such a great idea to do in the very beginning of the conference. So they had like all these different specialties. They had like, I don't know, 8 or 9 different areas where people could meet up, and it would be like ER, travel nurses, you know, corrections, it'd be like flight nursing and wound care. Sometimes they would like pair a couple specialties together, but essentially it was just a space where you could be like, I'm a traveler. I want to, you know, see other travelers. And we all met in one area. And so then you could like, people with similar interests that are like-minded people, you could immediately, you click with like a whole group of people, and then you see them like, you know, throughout the week.
Yeah, I was pretty intimidated. It was funny, like when we first saw that there were meetups, I was a little like, okay, what do we talk about? Like, how do I go up to somebody and just start talking? I mean, I do it all the time. It's just, you know, I just wasn't sure what kind of reaction. It was the very first thing that we did on the ship. And so I was nervous, but then we found those 2 seats in this group, and everybody was really great. And it was just so friendly. And then we ended up seeing them like at other points during the cruise, and it was cool.
Yeah, like the whole time you like say hi to people, and I could definitely tell. I mean, the whole point of going on the ship was to like network and like get potential guests for the podcast and like hand out stickers and stuff. And so like we were like, we're going to go to all these different ones and like just like hit a bunch at the same time.
I was like, okay, we were ready.
Like it's go time. Yeah. But I feel like, I mean, that was mixed. Like we stayed at the Traveler one for a while, and we were still able to like network a lot, but also just, you know, talk to people and have fun and like, you know, gain a lot from those relationships just as much as anybody else.
Yeah. And we ended up staying a decent amount at the Traveler one, like to the point where it overlapped with the corrections that was after in the same area. And honestly,
those women are wild.
I was just about to say, I was like, Maggie, you walked right over to those people and you're just like, hey, and chatted with them. Y'all got a picture together. Like it was like a whole nother world. And honestly,
they were immediately a unit. Like not like they were such a strong group of women. It was so, they were so great.
So cohesive. Like all of them just like no shame. Just like, this is me. And like, this is what I'm offering. Like it was just the coolest experience, honestly. Like it made me kind of want to be a correctional nurse. And I'd never really thought about it before. I'm like, you guys are fun, and I like this. I was like, this seems like a fun community.
Because they probably don't normally work with other it's probably just like with 1 or 2 nurses, I would think,
Probably.
you know, for the whole, so like when all of them get together with like a whole group of nurses, like I'm sure it's like when Med Surg nurses get together for dinner, but like if you haven't seen another Med Surg nurse like ever, and like now you're together drinking for a week, you're like, my people.
I was dying. Also, the Med Surg one was pretty wild as well. Which, like, not surprised, you know, coming from the Med Surg background. I'm like, this makes sense. But we're walking down the little promenade and everybody's yelling in this one bar. I was like, where's the Med Surg one? Bar. Yeah, like that's where we're headed. And then, of course, that's where it is. Like everybody, what's your craziest story? You know, just, I mean, there's like clearly 2 leaders of the group. And everybody's just yelling and cheering, like, Med Surg, and like just all sorts of things. It was honestly really fun. And that was one of the other places we met some of the people that we had talked to pretty much until literally the end. Yeah,
literally we were getting in Ubers like next to each other. Yeah, I remember in that one small group, they were also like pointing out like who had been a nurse for longest, you know, like that was really like they had other like oldest nurses like stand up and everybody was like going nuts. And,
I know. I love
Med Surg bedside. Like, can you imagine being at the bedside Med Surg for like 30 years? It's just like some people do it.
They do. Yep. And I've worked with people who do it. I think, I mean, it's doable. I think if you work on a really good unit, I think that would be definitely feasible. Like, it's a lot of variety. I like Med Surg. I think it just depends on, I don't know, where you're working, your unit, your management.
Yeah.
Kind of like the environment in general.
Yeah.
How flexible, you know.
That's good.
But it was really interesting. Actually, one of the breakout sessions that we went to was nursing in a post-pandemic world, like one of the conference pieces. And one of the things that I wrote down from there was at 3 to 5 years, you're at the highest risk of leaving, which I didn't realize.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I learned that. So it's really cool to see those nurses who have stayed forever because, I mean, 3 to 5 years.
I think that makes a lot of sense because you feel like you're finally, it seems like 3 to 5 years in a profession really does not seem that long. But in nursing, it is long. Like it's like probably the average, you know, nurse right now is like, you know, 3 to 5 years. I feel like once you feel confident in, like, we're always trying to climb the ladder. And like, once you feel confident in where you're at, then it's like, oh, maybe I should go and do something else. Yeah. Like I've done my time here.
Right.
So
or
like,
schooling.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, I want to get into more things about the conference too. Yeah. I had wrote down some of just to give people a little bit of some examples of some of the topics. So, one of them was did you say evolution of nursing?
I did nursing practice in a post-pandemic world.
That's right. Nursing practice in a post-pandemic world. That was kind of like, what does the workplace look like? You know, like where do we see it going? That was a cool one. Yeah. Overcoming barriers caused by workplace trauma was one. That was probably my favorite one, honestly.
I would agree with that, honestly. Pretty engaging.
That speaker she was a great speaker. And I'm blanking on her name, but I'm actually going to probably have her on the podcast to talk about workplace trauma and overcoming barriers because everybody was so engaged and so like, you know, tuned in to what she had to say, because like we're all kind of dealing with, you know, the trauma of COVID, but also it wasn't so much about COVID trauma. It was about bringing your traumas from, you know, either your nursing practice in general or like, you know, around you or like your upbringing and like how to like, I think she talked about like the difference between a barrier and a boundary or like a wall and a boundary, I think was like talking about how walls are ways that we, you know, kind of shut down and protect ourselves and our hearts. Whereas a boundary is like a healthy, you know, skill that you can use to protect yourself, but also, you know, in like a respectful, it's like holding respect for yourself, I guess. It's like a healthier way.
Yeah, she said something during that kind of session that really kind of stuck with me. So I wrote it down just because I really liked what it sounded like. But she said, you can't build walls big enough to prevent the pain from coming in, which was interesting because then she kind of led in to talk about how love and companionship is absolutely necessary to be able to overcome this trauma, and how walls may be an unhealthy way of, sectioning yourself off. And you need to, that's not necessarily going to, your pain is still going to get to you. So you need to be able to build those coping mechanisms, build your community, build love, build companionship. And that's really what helps you to overcome that trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually just thought about, I wasn't going to say this in this podcast, but that made me think of, in my experience, so I had a miscarriage before I had Valerie, and I remember feeling like the next time around that I was pregnant, I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody about this I'm not going to, allow myself to like bond with this experience until I know for sure that, this is happening. And I think I either talked to my therapist or I don't remember like how I came to this realization, but essentially it was that piece where like, if I lose this baby, it's not going to hurt any less if I didn't bond with it. Like I'm still going to feel that pain. Like that's definitely like you're not going to prevent the hurt from coming in, even if you build these big walls. So like, I strengthened my coping mechanisms and like ended up, I appreciated the support I had when I had my miscarriage. So it was like, why like cut those people out? Like you need, to rely on those people. So I'm glad that you wrote that down because I didn't remember that.
Yeah. When she said it, it really stuck, because I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And like your story is a perfect example. And like, thank you for sharing that. I know that can be hard. But I'm glad that you feel like you had a good, support system and that you were able to kind of deal with that pain instead of setting that wall up.
Yeah. Well, it's just a matter of like, talking to people. Like I feel like we just need to be introspective on like what is harming us and like what, walls we're actually putting up, being aware of those things. She had also asked us that question, like what walls do we think that we have up in our practice? And so the story I was going to share, I think when we kind of like broke into small groups in that, with that prompt, and I had said that, a wall that I put up in my practice, I don't do this so much anymore, but I would never allow myself to be anything but like this professional facade to my patients. Like I am there to work. I am there to take care of these people. My needs are irrelevant to these people because I am their nurse. Like this is my role. I was like a robot. I wouldn't let them see, pieces of me because like for some reason I felt like the parts of me that are personal, like I would have nothing left from just myself if I was giving so much already emotionally, physically, my time, my energy to these people. And I felt like if I gave them any pieces of myself, like it would be too much. And like my patients don't deserve to take everything from me. Like, and it was an unhealthy. So I was just like, just very cut off from my patients. And then over years, I think I've watched other nurses talk about their lives here and there and their kids. And I've kind of just allowed myself to like let little parts of my personal life like leak into conversations. And it's so much better because like they see you as a human, like they see you as not just somebody at the other end of the call bell, like I can have conversations about like real things and it helps build connection and that's what we need in healthcare. So like, it's definitely, so that was mine.
Yeah, that was a really great example. And I know that the people in our group responded really positively to that example when you did say it.
They were like, the mic.
Yes. Yeah. Get this over here. Like, get the mic. She needs to share this.
I had forgot what I had said in that moment too. I didn't end up sharing it. I was like, what did I just say? But I mean, there's so many opportunities to like, speak up and share your story too. That's like, so that's a big part of the sessions, I feel like, is people like nurses in the audience, like standing up and sharing, which I thought was cool. Are you interested in taking your nursing career to the next level? B.E. Smith, an AMN healthcare company, is looking for qualified nurses to fill exclusive interim unit supervisor roles. This could be the travel opportunity you've been looking for, so apply now while positions are available. Click the link in the description box to contact a recruiter today.
Absolutely. And it was, I know there was another breakout session with these same two speakers. There's the two speakers for this one. And then the one really stood out to me, definitely. I'm the one who I hope that you do have on the podcast. I think she'd be quite the asset. But she also ran it, Emotional Safety and Healthy Boundaries. She kind of ran that one as well. And then that was the one where she had that wheel. So I'll pull over my little sheet here so I can reference it. But it's for this workshop. It's called the Wheel of Life. So she gives you I was like, I can show you what mine looks like. Sorry, it's a little crinkled. But just a quick, I don't want you to look too deep into it. It's a personal. But basically she asks you to rate areas in your life from 0 to 10, and you can rate that on the wheel, the middle being 0, the outside rim being 10. And then there's a couple areas that you're supposed to rate: finances, career, relationships, contributions, health, personal growth, recreation, and environment. And then she gives you little examples on the bottom as to what each of those kind of entails. So for me, and she asked for people to present, and actually somebody said, almost took the words right out of my mouth. But she went under contribution, and contribution under here includes giving time or money to your community and causes that are important to you. And I rated that only a 3 for me. And the other girl who was speaking rated it at a 3 as well. And she said, she's a travel nurse like I am. And she said, since I travel so much, I used to volunteer a lot when I had a stationary staff job. And now that I'm traveling, I don't have necessarily the ability to reach out and then volunteer and put myself into the community like I would like to. And so I thought that was a really interesting and fun, this was a fun exercise, because I agree with that 100%. And it clearly on my wheel, it represents.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you feel like what did that do for you? Do you feel like you're going to look at different, things in the area, or try and reach out from a community service standpoint?
I think so. So, I'm back in Virginia, and I plan on moving to Maryland here probably in the next 2 months or so. And I know while I was in Virginia, I did work at a free clinic for a short time as a nurse. Yeah. And definitely a different role than a hospital nurse, but still good and necessary. So I think I will. When I move to Maryland, I really do just need to dig a little bit deeper, whether it's a smaller volunteering opportunity or whether it's one of those larger opportunities where you do something weekly. I need to do some research into what's around my area. Now, I don't have a job solidified at this point. I just know that I will be going to Maryland, it's somewhere in Maryland or in Northern Virginia area. Once I get to that area, I'll definitely try and set something up. And it's a way to just build connections with people. I mean, once you're moving to a new area, that's the best way to do it. And it also helps with personal growth, which is one of the sections, recreation, environment. You just realize how each of those things just coincide with the other things. And I also kind of realized when I was doing this that some ones are my wheel is not that wouldn't get me anywhere. It's just very, there's some really high. Bumpy. Yeah. It's a bumpy wheel, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a cool, look into a physical representation of the areas where I feel I'm not as strong, and I want to get stronger in those areas.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good visual to be I am putting all my eggs into these baskets, and I'm not actually looking at this aspect of my life. I feel like being a mom now, my wheel looks so much different than I probably would have looked a year ago. I feel like I'm not 100% taking care of my health. Like I would want to, work on fitness more. Like I was running through the airport the other day and freaking almost passed out. Like I have not ran in years. Like I don't know. I just like that. I wish I had my wheel, but I think that was part of it. What are some of the other ones?
Environment, finances, career, relationships.
Yeah.
Health, personal growth, and contribution.
Yeah. I feel like I'm constantly working on personal growth. Like I really, as for like, I feel like maybe I'm a little hard on myself as far as like where I am and where I want to go. I feel like I'm always just, focused on like, what's the next thing? Like I should be doing more. It's like, right. I'm doing enough.
Yeah. I mean, you're a new mom. Like you've got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
You're doing great. But I agree. I mean, life is it's a constantly moving, evolving thing. And it's really like, there is no, constantly improving. That's what healthcare is doing. We're trying so hard to constantly improve. You got your evidence-based practice. Something that was okay years ago is not evidence-based anymore. It's not the right way to do things. And that's why you have to be flexible. You need to change. You need to improve. And I think that's okay to try to incorporate that into your life and like try and make those improvements and kind of improve yourself, even if it's just little things like taking an extra walk outside. If that helps with your fitness, like your health, your personal growth, I mean, that could help in so many aspects. Just a small change. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that was a theme about this cruise and conference is like, how can we take, how can we better the nursing profession? What things have we been doing for a long time that isn't serving us? And like, how can we like propel the nursing profession forward? That just made me think of one of the discussions that we went to. I think it was maybe evolution of nursing. But there was one that was talking, it was rethinking the team nursing model. And I don't know actually I think this was an early one. We might have been somewhere else, but they were talking about bringing back some of the old ways of nursing in order to combat nursing shortages, like LPN programs. Like we why aren't we looking to bring back this avenue of nursing that could help decrease RN workload? LPNs, I'm not actually speaking facts maybe, but I think that they have faster schooling. It's more accessible schooling. So like casting kind of a wider net of people to like bring them into the workforce. Like, why are we, I think that we have kind of trickled LPNs out, but like bring them back in. Like maybe that would, help some of our, decrease our workload, help with our staffing ratios.
Yeah. And then they also, they spoke to having people and professionals, LPNs and RNs, working to I don't know how they phrased it, but like the highest point in their license, like working to their greatest scope of practice, like being able to really use their skills and their knowledge and their understanding and like use that to your full advantage, and it's like, we need to be able to work at the top of our scope.
Right.
And like,
because instead we're trying to, pick up all of the slack and we are, changing trash can, like taking out the trash and like doing the beds and laundry and getting labs and like a lot of skill bases, which is like, it needs to get done. But at the same time, like, I think I would rather be doing patient education and critically thinking and talking to the team, and like that's more satisfying to me. But like instead we have all of these other jobs that we have to do because it falls on the nurse.
Right. We hold a lot, like we wear a lot of hats, as you can say, and like the job needs to get done. Unfortunately, with short staffing everywhere, it just ends up falling on us. And you're right, like sometimes we do have to get our rooms situated. Like we're dietary, we're the hucks at the front desk, we are techs, we are everything. And we're able to do those things. Absolutely. But it really makes you appreciate when you do have those people, how much more time you're able to look through your notes in the chart, be able to kind of look through your orders, make sure everything's getting done properly. I mean, if your time is filled doing other things, you just don't have that time to like look through all of those. And I even get to work 30 minutes early usually to look through my notes and try to get a better understanding because I know during the daytime, I don't have necessarily that time to be able to sit down and really look into things.
Yeah. I used to do that as an acute care nurse too. Yeah. Because it's like, you just, don't have time, which sucks because it's like, that's time that you're not getting paid, or, maybe if your manager is cool about it, you can clock in early if you're here, but like, that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't have to like have extra time when you don't have responsibility yet for your shift in order to like be intentional about your care for the day. It doesn't like it. It sucks that it's like that. But especially in acute care, when you have 4 or 5 people, like, if you want to really look into what's going on and in order to like catch things and fix things during the day, you got to do that in that first hour. And like when you're getting report for 4 or 5 people, you don't have that time a lot of the time. You depend on the night nurse, like giving a clean, quick report. Like that doesn't happen. So like, it's
hit or miss with that.
Sucks.
Absolutely. And, sometimes, especially as a traveler, I don't necessarily know the, I use Epic at all of the hospitals that I go to, but each Epic is also different. So like, I don't necessarily know where to look for certain things that I usually know where to look for. So that takes me extra time as well. So, there's a lot of travelers in the system right now. And so that's just something that also requires extra time for us to kind of get used to it. Because I'm lucky. I do use Epic everywhere. And I try to make that, I draw the line at Epic at the certain hospitals that I work at. But people bounce between, Cerner, Meditech. There's so many options out there, and it takes some time to get used to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the other conference sessions that we have, I want to run through a couple of these. Exploring the legal aspects of nursing with expert panel discussion. That was one of them. I remember people were standing up talking about some crazy situations they've been put in. And like, I can't remember. I wish that I just remember being like, that happened.
Yeah.
And they were asking for advice. They were asking the panel for advice.
Yeah. Part of their discussion was the liability insurance. And that was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
They talked about liability insurance because I have also thought about that as a traveler. And some people brought up the question of, if you have liability insurance, does that make you more of a target? And honestly, I don't know if there really was like a solid answer given for that. Because if they...
I think it was. I think that they said yes, essentially.
That it makes like you more of a target?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he said like from an insurance standpoint, they're going to go first, if they're picking people to go after, they're going to pick somebody with, more coverage. Yeah. Than somebody not. I think that's what he said.
I feel like I remember that, but it seems counterintuitive to me. That just seems, like insurance should offer you more protection, but they're not going to go after your things. So I'm going to be doing some more research into that because that was a really kind of important thing that was one of the ones that like my takeaways, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the other ones, we didn't go to this one, but transgender health in the pediatric population. That's like, I feel like in our society, that's a hot button issue. And they had a specialist working in transgender health. So that was cool. Understanding nursing regulation and public policy. That was another one. Recognizing suicide risk in nursing. And then they had a lot of pharmacology-centered discussions that we didn't end up going to, but a lot of medication ones. There was emerging treatments for PTSD. There was stuff on cannabis and the endocannabinoid system.
The speaker himself, he was like, if I say it wrong, I don't know where they're putting all of these syllables, and they just picked random places in this word. He was a really good one as well.
His name's Rudy Pavlesic. He's a CRNA, and he does a lot of discussions. He did some last year too. I recognize him. You went to one of his. Which ones did you go to?
I went to the cannabis and
you did?
Endocannabinoid system. So it just was interesting. One of the things that I wrote down from this one was that it's actually very bad for people who have like schizoaffective disorder or bipolar. If they use THC, it can actually make it worse. So that was an interesting Yeah, I was like, I don't know very much about cannabis, so I was like, that was a cool learnings thing for me.
I remember learning that, I think in psych, I think in like nursing school, I remember talking about there's like a gene. If you have a gene for schizophrenia, it can be turned on in some sense with drug use or like using marijuana.
Interesting. Wow, good memory.
Like, well, it stuck with me. I was like,
everything.
Yeah.
It's like nursing school, just a blink of an eye.
But yeah, no, it was, Shannon also and we went to nursing school together. But no, super interesting. Rethinking the team nursing model, we talked about. Racial disparities in healthcare. That was another one, like at the end of the day, that I went to. They were talking about implicit bias and kind of checking yourself and seeing, and some people had really, really sad stories about, there was one woman who had cancer. She's a nurse, and it seemed like her care when she was being told she had cancer was really, it wasn't appropriate because her doctor thought that she was a nurse and she knew everything. And so she didn't get the support and the care that she would have probably gotten if she wasn't in healthcare. And so that was just a really unfortunate story that probably happens a lot when people are like, oh, you got this, you know this. But it's like, I'm still a patient. I'm still, I want you to talk to me. I want you to like lay it all out, because as soon as you hear the word cancer or something, like everything just, your mind goes blank. Like you're not listening to anything else anymore.
Right.
So
it's like, I'm not digging back in my mind. I mean, this luckily has not happened to me, but you're not digging back in your mind. Oh, so what do I know about this particular form of cancer? It's like, oh my goodness, like I cannot believe that you're saying these words to me. Like I've seen these words said to other people, but I never thought it would be me. And that whole, I mean, I'm sure all of that's running through their minds. I'm sorry that happened to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's definitely good that she brought it up and like brought it to the forefront so people can pay attention.
Yeah. One of the speakers actually had a similar story. And so they like really connected in that moment. The speaker was like, can I give you a hug? I'm not a hugger, but I would like love to connect with you. And like they hugged, and it was really sweet. Aww. It was it was in the Star Lounge, which was like instead of they like kind of theater setup, it was more, everybody was kind of in like lounge chairs around and as the speakers, like we were all on the same, like eye level. So it seemed more personal. And that was a great one. Healthcare hierarchy with expert panel discussion. I felt like that one was a good one too. So they had a lot of just different, they had a lot of like cultural sessions and leadership sessions, some pharmacology, some, medication based, but there's something for everybody.
That's right. And that's really awesome. And that was one of my favorite parts of the trip too. There was just so many options. I was like, I would definitely have liked, I know we had talked about this before, but there were so many sessions and they didn't leave any time. And so it felt like I couldn't really get the full experience because I really wanted to see like parts of another one. So it was kind of hard. Like I did stay for a lot of the sessions, but I felt like I was missing out on other ones that I did want to see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. I think that speaks to conferences in general. It's like there's two that you really want to go to and you can only go to one at the same time. And, you just hope that a friend of yours like went to the other one so they could talk to you about how it went. But yeah, that's definitely, you feel like you can't miss anything. I think I was exhausted after that day because I think we just shoveled food in our mouths the whole week. Like we didn't want to miss out on anything. Like we're like, okay, we're just going to grab a taco really quick and run to
just like shoving things in our face. Absolutely. I was like, I don't think I've ever eaten this fast ever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was not good. Also, I feel like one thing that I would have wished was like a little more ironed out. They did an escape room, which I love escape rooms. We're obsessed. Matt and I, Matt proposed to me in escape room. We just love them. Like we've done, I don't know, 15 to 20 of them. And so I was like, they have an escape room on the ship. And I think I had like just a really high expectation of like, I didn't know what it was going to entail. But I mean, there was like 100 people in that room. And there's no way for everybody to like be involved all at the same time. It seemed like the way they had set it up, and I don't even know exactly how, like what the scenario was or like what we were working towards, but you had 2 teams and it was like code sepsis escape room. So you had like a scenario, and I think I'm sure you were trying to like fix the patient or like get to the end. I don't know. You were at the end of yours, right?
Yeah, I was at the end, and we read the scenario, and then we got a code from the team in front of us. So it was like 6 stations. So I was station 6. And so station 5 gave us a code. We opened a box. It had a word find in it. So the word find, we then had to find all of the words, and then all of the leftover letters said a sentence. And then we just had to say the sentence out loud, hit a bell, and that was it. But it was like a mother baby patient, like and so, or labor and delivery, if you will. And it was very interesting because I don't think it really related. It was interesting. So I just wasn't really sure what was happening, honestly. And I did also have pretty high expectations because I also love escape rooms, not as much as you do for sure, but I definitely, I enjoy them. And it was 8 o'clock in the morning that they scheduled this. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to expect.
No. Yeah. Shan was like, are we really going to go to this? I'm like, yes, we are. We're
doing it. I was like, I want to, but we got to bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning, woke up at 7. You woke up at 7 every day. I woke up at 7:30.
I had to pump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We were going.
Yeah, we really were.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that was the conference. There's 2 days of just like packed in different topics. But the nursing cruise part, and the part that everybody, does was just as, so fun. Like you do CNEs all day and then you party all night, or you party all day and party all night. It's up to you. So it's whatever, choose your own adventure.
Right. That's the beauty of it, honestly. Like it doesn't matter whatever you want to do. Like if you came for the conference, if you came for the parties, then either one, there it is.
Yeah. And you're on a cruise. Like you can make it, you can go to as little as or as much as you want. But they definitely had, enough to keep you busy for sure. They had things going on all the time. So there's some of my favorite events. They had, so pretty much after we were either, the conference was from like 8 to 4, or you were like, you could be off the ship from 8 to 4. So like the things that were going on the ship, like nursing related stuff, didn't really happen until after like 5 o'clock. But then they would go on from like 5 to, midnight or later. So, but some of them, there was one in particular that we both ended up being a part of, and it was the skills checkoff.
Oh my gosh. So, what a fun time.
It was called skills checkoff, and it was essentially like a relay arena of 4 different teams. They split the audience up into 4 teams, and they needed a nurse manager for each team. So who better to be a nurse manager for a competition? Team captain Shannon got picked, and it was so. What were the different like things that we had to do? They were kind of like minute to win it games.
But like they tried to put a little nursing like spin on it. The first one was, so as the nurse manager, I just got to pick the other nurses to participate in the tasks. So I myself didn't necessarily participate, but it was my job to make sure we got the
hold the urinal.
Yes. So for the first one, it was, a urinal experience. So each player, my nurse, I guess on the other side of the floor, would run without spilling any of the urine and dump it into my urinal that I was holding. And then they would do that until, I think there was only 3 cups, and until the time ran out. And then whoever had the most.
But they also had
win.
a bat they had to spin.
Oh, you're right. Remember? Oh my gosh. I forgot about the bat.
Made it just a little bit worse.
Yes, that did. And it was like people were all over the place because you get dizzy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're on a ship also. So, I mean, there's obviously that ship motion too. I'm like, your poor sea legs.
Nobody threw up. Yeah.
Yeah.
No emesis was had.
Thank goodness. That's like my thing. And then, everybody's got their thing, that you just do not like dealing with. And that is mine. A fun fact for the team. And then the other one was they had a little like rubber stool and you had to shoot it into the bedpan. And I mean, that one took forever, like near impossible.
That one took forever.
Yeah.
That poor woman had never like tried doing a slingshot like in her life. She just
kept like
sling it onto the floor, like right by her. And everybody's like, okay, we're not going to win this one. Yeah. But and then I got up there. There was one that I did. There were beakers. There was like 4 or 5 or 6 beakers on the floor. And I had pantyhose tied to my head with like a ball. And it was like an elephant. And I had to like get the beakers.
You were excellent.
And I won.
You did. Yes, you did.
I won it.
Amazing.
Yeah. I didn't know because like I couldn't see what was going on, like just in front of my face. So I got the last one and I hear like cheering and I'm like looking around. And I was like, was it me?
You're like, did I win? Well, it was hard because one of the people next to you, so I guess with the initial like swinging, had fallen over and she knocked over 3 of her beakers and 2 more. So she was like, whatever, just walked by and just knocked both of them over with her foot and was like, I'm done. I was like, I respect you for that. I didn't realize
that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I know. She was okay, thankfully. Oh and she laughed it off and it was fine. But it was just one of those. I was like, oh my goodness.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then there was another one about they had to like dress up a patient to like get ready for discharge. Mm-hmm. And so like you had to dress them up. I don't know. We were like grabbing things from anybody that had anything that this girl could wear. They like took it off of themselves. So she like had a wig. She had
like a crazy purse. That person who gave me the purse threw it down from the stands, hit me in the head. I was like, if we didn't win this round, I would be sad, but we won. So I was like, totally worth it. But smacked me right in the face. I was like, okay. I mean, wigs, lipstick, like it was just the most random things.
Gosh.
Yeah. Someone gave them their pass, like the pass that you use literally for everything. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, it was wild.
That was that was a hilarious night. That skills checkup was really fun.
Yeah.
And every night there was also a theme. So it was like, there were 3 themed nights. There was the Great Gatsby night. So like 1920s flapper era. That was really fun. And they had a balloon drop, which was great. Although our balloon, like it almost didn't open. Oh, yeah, we were like waiting like 5-10 minutes. We were like 3, 2, 1.
And
we were like waiting for it. And I had my like video up, like waiting for it to go. Like, eventually, I don't know how it happened, but they came down.
Yeah. And you know what? The greatest compliment was you were the most authentic looking flapper on the boat.
Somebody
I said, agreed.
I was like, thank you. Amazon sponsored this outfit.
Your hair was perfect. Everything perfect.
Yeah,
that was a fun night.
I was like, thank you. And so the next night was pajama party, which was great because you just like got in your pajamas. So you just partied and then went to bed.
Amazing.
Which is amazing.
Except for you,
although
I think.
I jumped in the pool.
Jumped in the pool. So I'm hoping that you did change. I was like, I can't necessarily recall at this particular moment, but I hope that you did change before you got into your bed.
I did. Yeah, that was so fun.
That was really
fun.
And
then the last night was NurseCon Glow. So everybody was wearing like neon and stuff, and that was great.
Yeah, I always love a good glow theme.
Yeah,
it just feels bright and fun and just sparkles and colors, and it's a good time.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
Some of the other events that we had, Nurse Blake Live, he did a comedy sketch, and we've seen him before live, and I feel like, I mean, I think he does a good job of like, some of his jokes are still there, like some of like the hitters, like the bangers that are really popular. He did a couple, but I think he does a good job of like changing it up.
Yeah, a lot of like audience participation, and you can tell a lot of that's like ad lib, which I think is really awesome.
Yeah, like he's funny. He's funny in real life. Like it's And Nurse John was in there in the very beginning. He like did a little like. He like sang a song, I think.
He did sing a song. I forgot. Yeah, because Nurse Becky went to go change, you know? Yeah. And then, it was just him on the stage. I forgot about that. That was cute. Yeah. He did a good job.
He did. Yeah, if anybody hasn't seen Nurse Blake live, it's definitely worth it. He has a new tour coming out called Shock Advised. So I'm sure it's probably all new content.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess I don't know that if that's for certain, but I would assume, you know. But yeah, he's coming back around, so definitely he's so funny, and he does a great job of like including all, you know, like shortening the room, I guess, and like making it more, you know, like we are all one. You know, he like in the beginning of the. I guess I shouldn't talk about like what is actually in his comedy sketch.
Yeah, I was like, you should just go see him.
Yes, you should go see him. There was also silent disco every night, which is
so fun.
So much. It's always a good time.
Right.
And it's always, I love taking off the headphones and everybody's like just jamming and it's silent.
You're like, this would be very weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But they just have great music. I mean, every time. And yeah, there's a couple different channels. So like if you don't like one channel, you can go to another one. And based on like the headphones are green or blue, you know, based on what channel you're on. So you can like look around the room and see who's listening to the same music and you can like vibe with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So and I also will say on the trip, I saw the best drag show I have ever seen. The best. I mean, quite the performers. I mean, beautiful drag queens. I was like, wow, very impressed.
Well, and he got really famous drag queens.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't watch RuPaul drag show, but I know one of them was a winner of, or at least one or two, one of them. And I mean, that's what I've heard. I've heard like they were very well-known drag queens and they were hilarious.
Yeah. Perfect. I mean, I literally was like, wow, this is legitimately the best one I've ever seen.
Yeah. This is like a show. Like one of them wasn't, I feel like two of them were kind of like comedy based and one of them is like a supermodel. So she just like strutted her stuff around the stage and, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I loved that. That was so much fun.
Or the nurse feud. That one was a positive and a negative. You know how we feel about some of those answers.
Yeah. So I think that will be something that the team at NurseCon is going to like put their heads together and make sure that that's ironed out for next year, because it seemed like, so it was like a nurse feud, like family feud. And the panel of, I guess they surveyed 500 nurses and then had these prompts. And then, you know, that's how they come up with like the most popular answers or whatever. But there was not a nurse. It seemed like, you know, like surveying those and just like making sure that like they were correct. Yeah. Because what were the ones? I can't remember the prompts, the question.
There was one, what is the most, like when you hit your nurse, like your call bell, what are they asking for? What is your patient asking for? And like, what are the top 8 to 10 answers? And then they put pain and then pain meds. So I was like, interesting. I mean, I can understand, but like like having pain or you want your pain meds or like you're just having pain, you want to tell the nurse, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. So like I could see that one, but the other one was it either least favorite nursing class or favorite nursing school class?
Favorite nursing school class.
I think you're right. But pharmacology was first, which was surprising to me. That's why I was like, is it least favorite or favorite?
Yeah, right. It seemed kind of silly. But they had anatomy and then they had A&P.
Like what do you think the anatomy A stands
and physiology
for in
and anatomy? Oh my gosh. It was the audience. I feel bad for the host. The audience erupted in rage. Like, they were like, those are the same.
He was like, I am not a nurse. I told you at the beginning, I am not a nurse. I did not say anything. I did not do anything. Like, these were, and it's like, it's fine. But like, that is, and then I think it was like, that was the difference between because it was the night shift versus the day shift. And so that was the difference between, and like, of course, you are night shift and then I am day shift. And I'm pretty sure like the day shift lost that because of some odd reason. Like they couldn't get one. And I was like, anyway.
There was another thing about like, what do nurses snack on? And the girl, I remember the first answer, she was like, peanut butter and crackers. And everybody was like, yes! Because like, we all know, that's what we snack on.
It's
like, that's just, it wasn't on there. You're like, I'm sorry, what? Like that? No, that's what we snack on. Like everybody in the audience was like, absolutely, no, it wasn't on there.
Or the one where,
but I mean, it was surveyed by nurses, 500 nurses. So
that is just, it's surprising to me.
Yeah.
But like, all right.
To me too.
They had one, I just remember this one was the biggest uproar, I think, was the suction. It was, I think it was something about beeping, like most annoying pieces of equipment you work with. And so someone said suction, which I'm like, I don't necessarily agree with that. But the answer that popped up, they gave them the answer. It said wound vac. And I was like, I mean, wound vac does use suction, but it is not what we were referencing. So that should not have been given the answer. And I'm pretty sure that was like towards the day shift. So like, I'm even going against my own team at this point to say like, that is not the right answer.
That was another like crowd erupter. They were like,
uproar.
But I think that was a really fun. Like, I hope that they do that next year.
Oh, 100%. I'm like, can you interview me? Like, just send me. I will answer all your questions, no problem for you. I mean, we'll get the top.
That's what they should do.
Whatever.
They should have, or they should have before. They like have a little survey they put under everybody's staterooms, and then you fill out. Or like online or something, have that happen on the cruise. And then you can have, we surveyed 3,000 nurses and this is what we came up with. Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. What else? There was one other one that I want to talk about. It was campfire. And that was like a kind of small, it was almost like an expert panel discussion, like in the conferences, but there was, and some of the same people, like 4 or 5 people and Blake, and they just kind of talked. It was set up like a campfire. They had like this little fake fire and like a tent next to them. And they had like a guy playing guitar, in the back, and like all the lights were down low. And so it just felt like an intimate space to like share and, be vulnerable and share your story. And that I think is always really special. Blake, was vulnerable in his stories, and it was, I don't know. It just is. It's like a feel good kind of chicken noodle soup for the nurse's soul type event, and that I really liked.
Yeah, I definitely like to hear like that real talk. Like, I mean, we all have our own stories, and so it was interesting to hear theirs and like to relate to theirs.
Yeah. So at the end of everything, like, was it what you expected it to be, or do you feel like it was different? Like, what was your takeaway from the whole experience?
I feel like I really came into this being interested in a rejuvenation of like my passion for nursing, I don't necessarily feel like I got a lot of that. Like I've been to conferences before, actually 2 other ones in the past. And I felt very, there were a lot of like informational sessions where I felt like I gained a lot of knowledge that I could then take back to my nursing practice. In this one, I gained understanding and a little bit better of an insight into myself as a person and my interest in building myself up, building my team up. It's not necessarily, I mean, that is an aspect of nursing, but it really made me like kind of more introspective and kind of to look at myself and how I can build myself and be better. And then in turn, be a better nurse. Like I really felt like I did feel like personally rejuvenated. I don't necessarily feel like my nursing, like I'm like, wow, I'm much more excited to go back and be a nurse. But I feel more excited in my personally, I feel good. And like, it was a nice like vacation. I felt heard. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't necessarily what I was expecting, but not in a bad way. It was honestly, it's kind of what I didn't know that I needed.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that.
Thing. Yeah.
I feel like after conferences, I always want to go back to school. It always makes me like feel ready, like that I should be doing more, you know, when they talk about like the need for APRNs and like, I don't know, I just always feel like I could be doing more for my unit. I could be doing more to like benefit the nursing profession. So I always feel like, I don't know, kind of energized in that way to like go back to my unit and, you know, see, like be more involved or, you know, in that way. But I feel like this conference fills a need that other conferences don't necessarily get to, because a lot of conferences are mostly, you know, education, informational based. You learn about reading EKGs or like the newest technology in, you know, 3D printers or, you know, just like really cool, interesting topics, but it is like a very professional environment. And this conference, I think, does a good job in like focusing on some of those softer topics that, you know, we kind of need, like the overcoming barriers to trauma and, or overcoming your trauma. And then it also has just a space where nurses can really, you know, vibe with each other and like have a good time. And, you know, I don't think that necessarily, you don't get that from other conferences. So it's definitely a unique experience for sure.
And it's like, you can have a great time and learn things. And honestly, like there's no fear of judgment at all. Like I never felt like something that I was doing was like, oh, I don't know why she's doing that. Or, oh, you know, in any aspect of the entire trip. I mean, you could wear what you wanted. You could be who you want. Like it's that I thought was very cool. Cause you're right. A lot of the other conferences, it is very professional. You know, you have to wear a certain thing, like act a certain way. And this one's like, you're just talking to another human who's also a nurse, and there's no expectation that you have to meet or you don't meet. It's just, you are who you are and here you are. And you take it or leave it.
Yeah. It's very accessible for everyone. Even like the educators are accessible. You know, you just go right up and talk to people. They're all friendly, personable, you know, nurses. It like lowers the playing field. It makes it easier to talk to people. And that's the same with, everybody you meet. So.
Yeah, it was honestly, I was impressed with the experience. All of my nursing friends have seen, you know, the posts that we've made, or you really have made, and they're all asking me about, you know, how was your experience? Did you love it? And honestly, I had a blast. It was an amazing experience. And like, even all of these things, like some of the things that I said that I'm like, oh, that could be improved, didn't change how amazing the experience was. I would easily say it was the best. I mean, it's the best cruise I've probably been on. I've only been on 2, so that's not saying a lot, but it was an amazing experience. And I'd recommend, and I'd go again for sure.
Definitely. I would love to go again. And they're going again next year. They're going to Mexico next April. And I don't remember the dates, but I think that they are probably going to advertise it soon in the next like spring, summer. But
I know it ends April 14th because that's my birthday.
Oh yeah. I think it's the 9th to 14th is what I have in my head. Yeah. 9th to 14th. So yeah. So we loved it. I loved it. It was a great experience. I think I learned a lot, and there's something for everybody there. So if you're interested in going, I would definitely go check it out. And I think that somebody had told me that it was more financially accessible. I think it was maybe a little bit cheaper than the times before. I don't know about next year, but you know, if you go with like 4 people in a stateroom or something. If you get like, I think that they have staterooms with like bunk beds or something. You could split it up with other nurses, something like that.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to go, guys.
Easy.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. And oh my gosh, if you're trying to go and just relax, also perfect. I mean, party, relax. I mean, there's something for everybody. Go.
Yeah, really is. Oh yeah, I want to mention too, it's not just all, they have a group for people who don't want to party and drink. And I can't remember the name of it. I think it's like a friend of Bob or Bob's friend or something like that.
Or Bill or something. Yeah.
Bill. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's a group for people who don't drink and like still want to have a good time and like don't want to be around, partying all the time. So if it's, that's also an option too. There's something for everybody.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much again for coming with me, Shan. I think that you were the perfect person to bring, and we had such a good time. And again, it was so good to see you. 'Cause don't get to see you as often as I would like.
I know,
but it was great.
I had such a wonderful time, and like definitely appreciate you bringing me on it. And I'm glad we could talk about it here, so other people might be able to kind of share that experience that we had, which was amazing.
Yes, it was. All right, girl. I think that's all we are going to have today. So I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me again.
That brings us to the end of the show. Thanks for tuning in to Nursing Uncharted. To learn more about today's episode, make sure to explore the show notes at americanmobile.com/nursinguncharted. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a guest. If you're a nurse interested in traveling, visit americanmobile.com to explore the largest database of travel nursing jobs in the industry and the amazing benefits that American Mobile has to offer. Also, a special thanks to producer Jonathan Carey, assistant producers Katie Schraubin and Sam McKay, and Aiden Dykes for the music and editing. Until next time, take care of yourself.